We are
Just connecting.
live now, and now you can speak in the meantime.
Okay, so we're about to start our next Evolving Education webinar. No? In English. This time through Instagram Live. We changed from Facebook to Instagram depending on on just that week how we feel really. And today we're pleased to be joined by an amazing organization. It's called Children's Rights. Based in India. So good morning for those that are in this part of the world that we're in, and this American continent. And we're going to be joining with friends from India, and over there it's going to be 8 p.m. So quite late in the evening. Let's see if they can join. Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Maybe
yeah, I think we got it. No? Let's see.
Yeah, I think Ana Secara is about to join.
Okay,
He's
fantastic.
one of the leaders in this organization that is creating these amazing spaces where children can express themselves and can share how they would like to change the world, really.
Well, it says that he cannot join. Let's see, let's try again.
We're connecting with the Instagram page, Child Rights Guna.
Yeah, I just sent you the invitation, so hopefully...
yeah, there he is.
Yes!
Hi, Ana Secara, nice to see you.
Hello!
Hi.
We made it!
Happy to see you both.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for joining this late. I know that in India it's already in the evening, so energy levels are coming down. Ours are still not rising. It's still kind of the sun just came out, so yeah.
I wake up really slowly, so I'm here and trying to have all the energy concentrated now.
That's really great. You people are doing amazing, that means.
Thank you. And yeah, this has been an amazing month. I think there's been so many activities going on at the beginning of the year about children empowerment. We were last weekend in an online congress about
yesterday.
Yeah, last weekend was yesterday actually. Yeah, it was like so much is going on about children innovation and creativity. And there were so many children and youth from India. I was surprised by how many inventions came from people over there. We have been in India ourselves for like 3 months researching on innovation in education, and I must say that it's one of the countries in the world that have amazed us the most. It really changed our mindset about how we see education, particularly for me. Like it was the first time that I really encountered self-directed education, that I was challenged as well about globalization of education, which some friends refer to as mental colonization, as institutionalized schooling. I don't know, many concepts and ideas that I learned from people from there, and many good friends that I'm still in good contact with.
Yes, no, I think the diversity that we found there was mind-blowing.
Yeah,
like,
actually, there's another organization called Ecoversities Alliance, which maybe you know, that are reimagining higher education, and it came out of India. I'm now one of the people contributing to it as well, because it's amazing what they do. Maybe we join your movement as well after this call, because we're so keen to know more about children's parliament.
Yeah. Super quick introduction. We are, for those that don't know us, we are Luz and David from Evolving Education, and we are trying to democratize practices to empower children so that they can take control of their learning and their lives.
Yeah, and one of the ways in which we do this is hosting weekly webinars with amazing people like Nana Sekar here, who are already creating the spaces where that is possible. So we're really interested in learning about children's parliament. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself for the people that might not know you yet.
Sure, definitely. I'm Nana Shekhar, I'm from India, especially southern part of India. I started my journey in children's parliament when I was 9 years old, and it's been some 14 years now. I just grew up in this same moment. So I crossed all the levels in this children's parliament. Like I started from the grassroots level, and I just came up till the global level now. So for the past 14 years, I served as the state level prime minister of children's parliament, then a national deputy prime minister, And now I started traveling all around the world as an international trainer to the same concept. And now I've been just giving many talks and lectures as well. I've been conducting many workshops on how do we conduct children's parliament and how we can save children's rights and all. And we recently started a journey, a kind of a trip, which is a zero budget one, which is to connect all the 28 states of India. And we reached all the organizations and schools, and we introduced this concept, children's parliament, and a dynamic governance concept called sociocracy. So that's what me, and I did my graduation with 100% Fulbright scholarship because of this children's parliament. So that's
Oh,
me.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's a long journey, kind of being part of Children's Parliament and also through those different levels. We're really keen to know more about that. Maybe for many people, including us, that don't know exactly what is a Children's Parliament or a neighborhood Children's Parliament, can you tell us a bit more about what is that? How does it look like?
Sure, definitely. So, Children Parliament is a small unit of structures of children where we organize and mobilize children from each neighborhood-based communities of about 30 to 35. So, there'll be some 30 to 35 children. So, that children will be organized as team, and we have some swearing-in ceremony sessions among them. We have we'll be conducting some sociocratic elections, and also for those who cannot understand what is sociocracy is. So sociocracy is 100% consent-based decision-making panels. So we use sociocracy in children's parliament. So we elect child ministers, for example, Minister for Education, Environment, Sustainable Agriculture, Minister for Zero Poverty, Minister for Finance, something like this. So we have the same kind of actual constituency system, and through which we empower children to like voice for their rights and for their society's rights and for their country's right, and we create citizens as a globalized perspective. Like if they're part of children's parliament, they are not a no citizen of a particular place or a country, but they become the globalized citizen. They become the citizen of the world, where they will just lose all these kind of discrimination factors and some they eliminate all these social injustices, and they start voicing for their rights and the society's right. And more importantly, not only just giving voices, but they act actually. These children will be coming together as a team, and they will be continuously every week they'll be coming together, and they'll be discussing about what are all the issues to be solved on their ground on grassroots level, and they beautifully come to a conclusion as to how they can solve it. And later they started solving it, and I was also one among them. Like 14 years ago, we were sitting in the same children's parliament forums, and we were talking about how we can solve the ground level problems of the society. And we started approaching many officials, and we started approaching the political people and the administrative officers, and we started maintaining a very good relationship with all those kind of people who are in power. And later we realized that children have more capacity. That vital capacity can change the world. So we utilize this thing to transform at least a bit. But fortunately, luckily, we got enormous support from all around the world. In 2009, we got a United Nations Award as the world's best child-led movement for child rights actions. So later on,
Wow.
which gave a extra boost to go for a while. So we took it as an advantage, and we started reaching many countries. Now we just started this children's parliament in one of the southern part of India, especially the corner of India in Nagarkoil. It was just started in 30 in number, but now it is some millions. So now we are officially in 21 countries, and unofficially we have been giving many trainings to 100 plus countries. So we can surely say that by the end of 2023, we'll be landing into like at least 100 plus countries, and we'll make them part of the global federation as well.
Wow.
Wow, that's an amazing expansion of the movement. And maybe to help us kind of feel a bit of how that works when you started, because you said you started when you were 9 years old. So how did it feel for you as a child to be part of a neighborhood parliament? How does it look like from inside?
To express this thing, I just go back to my life story. Like when I was 9, I faced a lot of like struggles. Like when my mom was undergone to child marriage, and my sister, she was undergone to child marriage, and because of child marriage, like she passed away with her unborn baby while she was pregnant. And we were living in a place where we did not have any kind of fundamental facilities to live. Like we did not have transport facility, primary health center, and even a school. So that was the remote place. That's a kind of a remote place where we were living in. So that's the situation I came from, and we always wanted to change something. Like since from childhood, we had the thrive to change and thrive to make some transformations, but we did not get any opportunity related to this thing. And once we hear like Children's Parliament can do some social activities like this, initially we didn't think that this could do like lot many changes, but we just joined as a kind of a club or something else. But later on, we became the protagonists of the program. So here, children are the main characters, and nobody will be there to play a kind of facilitation role, but the children will actually govern their own system. And we discuss about our problem. It is in a systematic manner, and a very kind of disciplinary actions will be taken. For example, we have certain levels. We start this children's parliament from neighborhood level, and we like gradually move towards global level, like neighborhood, and then a village or city level, and then local governance level, and then sub-district level, then district, state, national, and international wider level, then a global level. So when we had this kind of hierarchical pattern, that hierarchical pattern helped us reach many people and many related officials. When we are dealing with the national and international level, movements and the federations, we got an opportunity to meet some officials and even the ambassadors of many countries. So we were having a very formal conversation, but a very friendly conversation with all the ambassadors. And we were proposing this concept to take forward in their respective countries. And it happened too. And we got many chances to interact with district level administrative authorities and the state level assemblies, the real assemblies. And whenever they had their a child related policy being formed, always they had our voice. Like we started acting as an ombudsperson of the actual constituency system. So this is the power of the children's parliament. And later a German lady, she was Anna Kirsting, so she came to India, and she was actually a film director, and she took a film on this Indian children's parliament, as how it's being formed in the rural levels, and how these children can empower themselves, and how they are reaching the international sectors like the United Nations. So that was beautifully documented and already grabbed many awards in many countries, international film festivals too. So recently we had one in Netherlands, I guess, and we had screening in the United Nations itself, and even in the like southern part of the countries. So it's being spread, like many organizations around the world are showing interest in taking children's parliament as one of their pilot projects to empower children's rights, to make children voice for their right. So this is how it
Hmm.
started. Yeah, and it's how it is evolving now.
Mhm. No, it sounds fantastic, and I think like traditionally, or I feel, well, not traditional, or no, I feel like normally kids are like excluded from society. There is no spaces for them. There is no opportunities for them to take decisions, and it's amazing that this organization, because once that you give them that space, they own it. They own those decisions, and they start taking. They start acting, and that's the power of not letting them be just consumers of information, but actual citizens, actual active people that can do things and can change their reality. It's not that because they are small, that means they cannot do anything or they cannot take good decisions. It's giving them that space allows them to thrive,
Hmm.
and start taking control of their lives and the environment where they live.
One of the challenges that I'm thinking is that precisely from what you said, that we are so used to an environment as a child and as an adult, as any person, to a setting where any young person is told what to do and where to be and need to be quiet and not to make any noise and a mess and so on. So I imagine there must be like an induction process or a process so that children that are used to just being there, sitting quiet and waiting for someone to tell them now you can play or now you can eat or now you can do something, to help them regain that autonomy and that control and that decision-making power. So how do you, when you set up a new children's parliament in a new neighborhood where people have never heard about this, I'm sure there's a lot of work to do with the adults to help them understand that children do have a voice, but I'm curious as well about how you work with the children.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely. So it was not a kind of easy task for us to establish children's parliament in a neighborhood. Like, when you call children, we just can't go there and hey, come on, just let's form a children's parliament. You can't form as it is. Like, there is a ground study and there is a beautiful procedures to be followed. But those are all are enjoyable. Like, initially when you approach children or when you like go through school or any organization, when you're approaching them, they'll be impressed a lot because these children can make a lot of social transformations, and they can like eventually they unleash their capabilities and the capacities. And one very beautiful story I can say here is like at the moment the organization which pioneered this concept, Children's Parliament, this Children's Parliament was founded by Father Edwin Maria John. So he started it as a project. Later, it has evolved as a movement. Now it has become the way of life of many, many children, like millions of children. When we started this, when started conducting this Children's Parliament, when we started forming this Children's Parliament, so we had some ground study of the place wherever we are setting up Children's Parliament, and we approached the respected organizations, then the local leaders of the actual place, and then we started connecting them with the children. So then we made the children understand their roles and responsibilities, and we have some 3 phases of training in this Children's Parliament. One is functional, the second one is life skills, and the third one is value clarification exercises. So when these children parliamentarians like undergo to all these trainings, they'll end up as a diplomats. Like those are, I mean, they are just 6 to 18 years old, but they act like diplomats. But in any places, they don't lose their childhood. Like they play like the same. They we call it as a game of governance. Like children used to pretend like their parents or the elders, right? They play a game of riding, a game of cooking, a game of climbing. Like the same, it's a game of governance with responsibility. So that's how we structure the children's parliament. And in this children's parliament, children understand the elders' mindset and the youngers' mindset, and they accept the realities, and they self-learn many things, and they self-taught many social aspects. And whenever these children come to this children's parliament, they come with a kind of general knowledge, and they continuously acquire knowledge, and they share it among their friends in this team. And not only that thing, but these children write letters to the actual prime minister of the country. And these children write letters to the actual finance minister, external affairs minister, like the actual ministers, and they've been getting replies to. So, for example, when we when we started this children's parliament, this is how I got into it. Like an organization, some facilitators came and approached our headmaster, the principal of the school, to set up children's parliament. He agreed, and then they approached us. We were just sitting we didn't know anything, right? So we're just looking at their large perspective and whatever they've been saying, and we just enjoyed it. But we didn't think that this could do a lot of things. We just went there and we 2 hours. It was 2 hours, and we enjoyed it really. They conducted many games. That games were amazing. So for that thing, we went there. But that thing, transformed our lives. So that's how we started it. And this children's parliament always like get federated at many levels and with some seven major principles. So always it will be in small in size. We focus on smallness and then a numerical
Mm-hmm.
uniformity. In this numerical uniformity, like whatever the level may be, whether it is a neighborhood parliament or a state level parliament and the national level parliament, the numerical uniformity will be there. And then we have convergence, we have some subdivision units, and we have subsidiarity. So this subsidiarity means like we have many subgroups, like one group, and under that one group we have some couple of groups forming, and under that group, those groups we have like multiple groups under them. Like this, the chain reaction will be happening till the global level. And then we have recalling option. You cannot see this recalling option in any country's, democratic or republican pattern, because when you are not satisfied with the person's job, or when the person is not ready to take up that job anymore, you can recall them and then elect as a new person to that place. So this is and the election is also a kind of a beautiful system. Like we follow sociocratic election in that there will not be any kind of nominations. We will not use any opposition parties, but these children will come together and they select their own leaders after accepting, after 100% understanding the roles and responsibility, with
Mm-hmm.
0% objection. They select their own leaders and they work together. So that's why they just give consent to all the of the objections, and once all the objections are solved, then only they elect a single person, and the elected person is a nominated person or a representative of the entire team. So these children are just acting as diplomats.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you explained really well the sociocratic decision-making process, which we're familiar with because we have been studying it as well about how it works in some schools that run in a sociocratic manner. Actually, for people that might not know about it, we have in our bio a test that we call the Education Changemaker Profile, and one of the questions is about what's the best way to organize a school, and it gives you some options, and you can learn about how to make decisions democratically, by consensus, by sociocracy, and what are the differences
differences.
between one and another.
Yeah, I really like sociocracy in that part that it's willing for consent. Like everyone is willing to try. It doesn't mean that everybody is like super happy about it or really bad about it, but everybody is in that zone of tolerance, and that gives a lot of opportunities to keep changing and moving to see what works for everyone and what makes everyone to be more or less happy.
Yeah, and I love that recalling option that you mentioned, that within because sociocracy involves lots of very hands-on decision making. As you said, the groups needs to be smaller, but then for higher decisions, kind of a representative will go to the higher circle or a circle that represents more people. But then that person really needs to represent the smaller unit. So if they don't, the unit can say, "Now you don't represent us anymore." Wouldn't be amazing if politics will go this way? I mean, it will actually work rather than being complaining all the time about politics not working at all, because those people will be really responsible for their actions and the community that they're representing there, because they had really deep conversations and discussions about it.
We'll have another world if that was the case.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just different sense of responsibility, consciousness, connection with the rest of the community. Even awareness about the way that you communicate or how good you are listening to others or not. There's just so much personal development that I see that is happening already in the children's parliament. That's amazing how much it has spread.
And there is also, I think, another point that I think is super important, and maybe it doesn't come so clear, but the fact that like one sentence that a guy from Colombia said was like, childhood is not a waiting room. And yeah, the fact that children can take responsibility and action in the present, that also allows to live and enjoy the present, not be thinking always forward to the future, but they are experiencing and being mindful of their lives at the present without willing to reach the future, or because then is when they are gonna supposed to live or have something exciting. And that, I think that this possibility to take control of their present is essential to live a fulfilling life.
Yeah, absolutely. And one question, well, unless you want to contribute something, wait a minute. But something that was coming to my mind is that for some people that might be listening, might say, "Oh, but children don't know. Children don't know about many things. The world is very complex." Actually, this happened. I don't know if it was at the UN or a meeting where Greta Thunberg was presenting and talking about the importance of climate change, and then a prime minister said, she's just a child. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Climate change is too complex for her to understand or what we need to do. We'll go ahead with our policies, which actually are doing nothing against climate change. So I'm curious about the problem solving that happens in the children's parliaments, about how they make decisions, how they inform themselves about the topics that they want to work on and change.
Yes. So everybody like will be in the same perspective or in the same ideology of children or the future citizens. But in children's parliament, they realize that they are the active and alive participants of the existing society, and they have like their responsibilities and their rights to be heard. For example, any problem in the world, if it arises, children will be the most affected people. Like if there is drought or flood or famine, whatever it may be, children will be affecting a lot. Like elders can live without food longer than the child. So children will be the most affected and as sensitive people also to be taken care of. But here, to put simply, children have the maturity to decide their life. They decide how, like, in which path they can go on, and they decide what are the no topic or syllabus to be studied, and they have their own mindset and ideology and the maturity to lead their life. And why can't the rest of the governance process? If they want to do something, children know, like if they have pain, they only know that in which part they are just paining off, and then they'll be they can take and go for treatment. So like the same, if children have problem, and there will be the people to represent that things in the international or in a globalized context. So we cannot say child as a, like, you are a child, you don't have any voice to be heard in the national sectors and international sectors like that, because as it is a democratic and a republican world where people's voice to be heard, and these children are not only the future citizens but an active and alive present participants of the governance. And even greater. And in children's parliament, a 13 years old girl some years ago called Swarnalakshmi, she represented Indian children's parliament in the United Nations. She talked about child marriage, and she came back to India. But the impact she created there, she talked about child marriage and child rights, and she added a beautiful thing that add children's parliament as part of the United Nations, and we can transform this world massively. She came back to India, but the panel was impressed. And she got the second invitation, and again she got the third invitation. So she addressed the thrice, and she continuously represented the Indian Children's Parliament, and she referred the same thing as to adding Children's Parliament as part of the UN. And beautiful things happened, like those words, started grabbing the international attention from many countries. And many administrations are not just giving an opportunity to solve children's problem, or they are not letting their children to play key role in the governance process. That starts from family, because family is a big institution which is to be taken care of, because in families, whenever a child is just coming to say something, they just stop that. You're a child, you are not that mature to like say a word in this topic or in this conversation. So that is that is where children will get effect of, like they have their superiority complex, like okay, we can't say something like this, or that inferiority complex like, no, oh, okay, but these children's parliament, let them talk about anything they want. And once they talk about anything they want and anything they like, like, and they can represent the hierarchical pattern. So when they do this, the world will understand that children parliaments can be able to make transformations, and they can make and produce a good globalized human or globalized children citizens. And we have like given millions of success stories and millions of achieved people, and we have like millions of examples as how we recreated the pathetic society to a beautiful society, and a pathetic village to a beautiful well infrastructured village. So well constructed village is created now just because of children's parliament and their initiatives. And now these, initially when we started the children's parliament, we also faced the same thing from our village head, from the district authorities. But later they understood that this is something which can be, emerged as a global movement, and this is something which can only bring out some changes. Only when you bend in a while it's young. Like, when you bend a stick while it is young, it can easily bend. You cannot bend it when it is become older. So that is the same process.
Mhm.
These children will be organized as perfect diplomats and perfect bureaucrats and a perfect administrative officers since childhood. When they become bigger, they will not get into corruption. They will not get into any other social injustices. They don't focus on any bribes. They don't get into any criminal activities. Rather than that, they will get into people empowerment and welfare schemes, and they understand that no the border security issues, and later they can create a borderless world where everybody is the same, because they don't and like they don't take this racism or any other security issues as a big thing, because they are living in a globalized context. They are knowledgeable to they are that much knowledgeable to connect like from people all around the world. So they don't do not have any requirement to do this. So there, a beautiful world can be created. So wherever we go, we ask the same question: what kind of world would you like to live in? People may come with
Mhm.
many answers, like a world without war, world without corruption, world without social injustices, problem-free world, corruption-free world. And then we ask, is this possible for us to create such a world? Some say
Mhm.
yes, some say in 200 years, and some say in 1,000 years. But we just let them aware of this thing. No, when the world is organized as neighborhood parliaments of 30-30 each, where they will be solving all their social and socio-economical problems, and then they will be just representing, giving their representatives to the next levels in the hierarchy till the world level. And the world is organized as such 30-30 families, and all these international representatives are responsible for the ground level, that is the neighborhood level activities and movements, and those units, which means an international person can be easily questionable by the person in rural area. So which means a friendly administration will be created, and in this administration people will not get into any kind of social injustices like corruptions or any other discrimination activities. Just imagine now, if it happens, how this world will be. And then we ask, okay, how long you can take it to like take your time to create such a children's parliament or a people's parliament or a neighborhood community. And they say with training we can create like this in some few days. But then we provide the training also. Then they start their own children's parliament, and they like do the same as we do now.
That sounds amazing. I'm just mind blown. I was thinking also about the fact that in these parliaments, then all the voices are heard, and a part of the empathy and and the active listening that you have to do, there is also the part of learning together, because you might think something, but then the other person thinks something completely different, or you just have a completely different perspective. So now you are exposed to all this diversity, and then you can choose what you want to think. And like I guess that, yeah, now in your point of view is going to include all the other parts that you can also consider important, and that's going to create that's the base of respect. You're going to respect everybody in that process, because you are going to listen to them, you are going to have the opportunity to empathize with them, and then think, okay, having all these cards in the table, now I want to, or I consider that this and this and this is important to me, and then you can develop your own thought train of thoughts, and you can start even getting to know yourself more to decide what you want to think and how do you want to act. And that is the base of respect and that responsibility that then you have with the rest of the community, because you know that for that person that thing is really important, so you are going to take care of that too. And that's like, it's a community building process, which is super beautiful, because that we are not alone in the world.
Yeah,
Because
100% correct. Yes.
Yeah.
The same what you
and I think this is a very spread out kind of thinking, and that we just kind of rely or wait for some higher authority to solve our problems and to deal with things, no? And the more I think that we consider our society is advanced, that means pretty much just delegating more and more decisions to a higher authority to take care of our safety, for our health, for our basic everything, really, for all the different things. And the more that we do this, while I agree that it's a welfare system of a state, it's a positive thing to have, it also means that we become isolated within our society, because we don't have any responsibility, any input into the running of our community or anything to say. We just wait for someone else that supposedly will have the information and the resources and everything to make the right decisions and make things happen. And we just complain in the bar or with some friends in a corner, but never actually do anything. And this is very different. This is actually caring about the things that are happening. I see this here, for instance, represented in the place that we live. Because it's run as a community. It has kind of pre-Hispanic rules, because we're in Mexico, and they continue running as they were before the colonialists came here. And then, for instance, in a neighborhood nearby, they decided that at 11 p.m. there wouldn't be more noise. And there's lots of bars and restaurants and people with live music, which is amazing to enjoy. But they decided, no, at 11 p.m. that's the time, and that's it. They didn't have to wait for a law to come from the state government or something. They just decided that as a community, and they're enforcing it because they go to each of the restaurants and tell them every night, no, at 11 p.m. you have to stop the music because we have families, our children go to school tomorrow. And this is way more empowering than just waiting for someone at some point to change some law at some level in the country and finally affect you.
Yeah, it's also taking care of that community. And
feeling responsible for it. Yeah.
Is that individualistic view versus that interdependence and community life, which I think sometimes we tend to isolate. The way we grow up, at least how I grew up in Spain, it feels every time you get more and more isolated, and there is less connection with the community that is around you. So that lets you powerless, because there is not much that you can do alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the possibility of collaborating with other people, it's something that very few of us have ever experienced in our lives. More than once you enter a company and then they tell you, this is your team. You have to work with these three people that you didn't choose for a topic that you didn't choose.
It's also funny how sometimes we don't know really well how to work in teams. Like, we don't know how to collaborate so much. Like, when we think about collaborations, it ends up being, okay, I split this in several parts and then we put it together and that's it. But we haven't experienced so much different ways, or where there is a work, like a feedback work in which we all actually collaborate.
Yeah,
Not only
and
you,
something
like
that is coming to
majority
my
of the
mind.
world, like many parts of the world, they feel the same thing. Like they struggle a lot to mingle with their neighbors. Like they don't
Hmm.
get into the neighborhood surroundings, or they face many problems because the society is constructed on that basis, or like they used to be like that. So little by little, even in many parts of the Europe, we our master trainer have like recently went to a trip to promote these concepts of neighborocracy, like neighborhood-based sociocracy, where we have to follow all these kind of neighborhood-based communities. He found many things interesting, like many people are living in the same apartment. They are neighbors for more than 10 years, but they didn't even know their names. That
Yeah.
when I heard this, and I was like, what is that? You people are just being here for 10 years, but not knowing each other's name. That was a kind of
Yeah.
bizarre thing to us. Back in India, we also had similar setups in some metropolitan cities, like in some apartment culture. As we have
Hmm.
many different cultures, like in apartment culture, they face the same thing. Even they are being in the same place, that they are living in the same like opposite homes, but they don't interact. That's because of the socialization, like lack of understanding about their social patterns and the behaviors, and they were used to it. Like we started changing it, like organizing community events and organizing some collective games. So through like that things, we initially started grabbing their attention, and we started making them involve collectively in some actions, and then we introduced to this concept, and later on they
Hmm.
come like once a month and they discuss about their something else, whatever they want to, but they discuss beautiful things collectively. And at one point of time, what we thought success was like getting all these people together was a major success. So that was also a kind of society where we are living now. But this is a very fast world with huge digital technology where we cannot include all those people like in person, because whenever I'm upstairs, my parents used to WhatsApp me to come for dinner. So that is the kind of a world which we are living now. But it will be beautiful if we organize as the teams and getting to know each other in the society, and that's the process which we are creating now.
Hmm. Absolutely, and I think this is super valuable, not just for children, as you just mentioned, but for everyone. Because the more used to get to also to technologies, the more isolated we are, and the more used we get to, yeah, precisely not knowing our neighbors, and not even our neighbors. Like sometimes we rent a room within a big house, and there's other people, and we don't interact with them at all. We act as if we live alone, but we don't. We don't in the world, we don't in your city, we don't in your neighborhood, and we don't live alone in our houses a lot at all. So
Mhm.
we need to understand how to collaborate, how to share with each other, how to solve the problems that are important for us.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I struggle to understand where that individualistic, super individualistic mindset has
Hmm.
come from to a point that we feel alone.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, this is kind of a key topic. Luz would like to do a
Yeah,
documentary on.
yeah. I would love to do a documentary about that, like that individualistic versus community, and where does it come from, and how has it reached the point that it has,
Uh-huh.
because it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and jumping towards schools, we're talking about children, and we always associate children with schooling, with education. We actually most of our webinars and so on are with people working in schools. And conventional institutionalized schooling is not sociocratic, it's not democratic, it's completely hierarchical, autocratic process where there's a person that that is the head teacher, whatever, that tells everyone else what they have to do. That head teacher really doesn't have that much power because the curriculum and everything comes imposed in many cases. And the teachers, again, they follow the same hierarchical structure within each of the classrooms, where the children are just there to listen and to they cannot decide what they want to learn, how they want to learn, when they want to learn, with who they want to learn. Really, everything has already been decided for them. So I'm curious about once children get so empowered in a children's parliament, what happens with their schools? How have there been any movement about changing their school environment?
So we also start look this schools concept in the same perspective, like they have their own system. Here in India, obviously, they are conducting a race for all the children. That's a common race. That's a kind of a running race. Let's say, for example, that's a running race, but for everyone, people who are capable of running can run until the ending line, the finishing point. But the people who are going slow, and the people with different abilities, and the people with different qualities and the talents, which is always being hidden one, or they conduct a common game of examination, and they just assess children, they just evaluate children based on the examination patterns, and they have their own hierarchical system, and they, as you mentioned, just they know when to teach and what are the concepts. And that thing nowadays, a child can just open his mobile phone and they just grab on. And more than the school tells, the child can be understand that concepts very well through internet. But this is not this world's present scenario. So what we have to do now is we need to let them understand that this world have to be filled with humanity, and they have to understand that how those problems should be solved. So making these systematically organized schools into a socio-critical one, that was a major challenge for us in the initial stage. But once we started this, we started mobilizing children, and we started making them like non-systematic, which means they come into socio-critic order. And later this teachers pattern, no, the teacher union, that also come into the same picture of sociocracy. And once they show interest in this, and we give them the same training to those school management as well, and later it can convert as a socio-critical one. Or else, once the children will be organized as such such teams, these children will get to know each other, and they will be socializing them, and they'll be globalizing their concepts, and they'll be grabbing some international opportunities which can defeat the present and existed system of education. And there are millions of educational policies around the world which are making children a kind of a dump yard. They put the same concepts which was found some thousands of years ago. That thing obviously should be learned, but as a historical perspective. But as a current thing, the socialization have to take place. So when the socialization will take place, only when they interact, or only they start start themselves to involve in many activities. And we always say something, one child, everyone have their own uniqueness. Like many children, but a same examination doesn't work. But everyone have their uniqueness, means you just find out the hidden talent and give them the space to develop that talent, and just grab some related opportunities for them. So for that, we have talent development minister in the children's parliament, and that person's job is to encourage this such things. And that person will be we will be conducting a lot of plenty of activities, and those activities will become some the platform for an opportunity to the children who want to be. And those children will utilize those opportunities. And at the same time, many children, because of the economical system in India and elsewhere also in many parts of the world, many children are not going to school. That has again become a major issue. So from the hierarchically organized school patterns, there is an opposite structure. Their family, as a huge institution, they are not allowing the child to get education because of their financial constraints. So in that case, these children's parliamentarians have their own pocket money as savings. They collect money, they save collectively, and they help the other children who are in their community to get educated. They like they started educating. It's a kind of a fellowship or a kind of sponsorship the children are doing. They're just about 6 to 18, but they are doing these amazing works. And when these school managements, see this kind of things, and then they understand this value of the concept, and then they realize that, okay, these children are acting as something which we also didn't thought of. So there this hierarchical pattern breaks. So only when they see the
Wow.
success, but everywhere, wherever we have created children's parliament, the result is the same. We transformed massively. Even the school
Yeah.
education system or the school management or the district officials, and in some point of time we had an equal representation with the district administrative officer appointed by this national government. So that was an extra privilege for us, and we promoted this concept all around the district with the help of the district administrative officer. So those are the kind of opportunities which we grabbed through these kind of social transformations.
Yeah, they are definitely role models to follow.
And if I understood it well, then the fact that they were organizing as a sociocracy then influenced the way the syndicate of teachers worked, and that influenced it, as well the school. So it does reach the school finally, and it led to some changes there. In addition to these other programs where the children talk to each other, so they could learn from each other, and that's amazing, because I think there's not one of the patterns or the paradigms that we're into is thinking that we can only learn at school, when anyone that thinks about the things that they do on their daily life, really a small proportion of that really comes out of school education. But we think that children needs to be at school to learn particular ways. So either we change the schools to actually support people to develop the skills and knowledge that they actually need in life, or we create these other spaces where children and youth can learn the things that they want and need to learn right now. Yeah.
So we also focus
So,
on two things.
uh-huh.
Like we need education. Obviously, we need education, but what kind of education? So Thomas Alva Edison has invented a lot of inventions. He has given like thousands of inventions to the world. How many days he has gone to school? Like I think
Yeah.
only one day from my reading. And a famous cricketer in India, he's Sachin Tendulkar. So he studied. He failed in 10th class. Grade 10th he failed. But once he found his interest, and he continuously acquired knowledge and skills on it, and he performed very well. Like 2-3 decades later, he became a syllabus of the same textbook of 10th standard, wherever he has failed some decades ago. So we need, obviously, children need education, but what kind of education? That is really important. Many
Yeah, that's a
schools
massive
are
difference.
running behind. Many
Yeah, and I
schools
see
are
the
just running
potential.
behind success. I'm so sorry for that. That is the kind of a clash. Yeah. So, yeah. So obviously we are just running behind success, and many schools are just teaching how do they get success, but majority of them are just failure in terms of teaching how children can face failures, or how children can become problem solvers of their own community or their own life. Due to this, many social injustices and even some lack of self confidence, many children are taking some wrong decisions in their life. So this
Hmm.
education have to be put since from the childhood, and that is where this children's parliament taking place in this through life skills and value clarification exercises and the functional trainings. These people have been giving all those things. Not only they're just evolving as a socially responsible person, but they have been developing themselves as a self-motivated people, and wherever they go, for example, if you throw these children in the water, they swim. If you just throw away, they fly. So that is the kind of self motivation they've been getting on. So that is the education should be given.
Yeah, and also thinking about that future of education, if we construct this society that is sociocratically or democratically really managed and where everyone has a saying on it, then we can even think about how, because instruction and teaching about particular things, that's completely relevant, but when someone is actually interested and wants to develop those skills, and that will enable really anyone to become a teacher. Like imagine a system where if I want to learn about mechanics, if I want to learn about law, if I want to learn about anything, I can go and ask to people that are actually doing those things, who usually know how to do it and how to share it way better than specialized teachers on the subject. I want to learn about that particular thing, and those people will be part of that community of rethinking education and saying, actually, part of my job is not just to perform in my job, but sharing it with other people that want to learn about how to do these things.
And also there is the passion, and that passion that you have by the things that you are doing is contagious, and it's not like, it's super exciting when you learn, or you learn best when you see someone passionate. That fire kind of get contagious, and then you go all the way, I think.
This is amazing, Nasika, this conversation we're having with you. I mean, it's really filling me with life and energy. Today is Monday at the beginning of the week, and not just the beginning of the week, but I think you're going to be a person that we're going to be very close in contact with, because I love the way that you're doing, and we would love to support it, to keep growing and expanding all around the world. So maybe just one last question for people that are watching. I would like to know how to join the movement. How can they create Children's Parliament? What's the first step that they have to take?
Sure. For joining with us, we have an organization called Neighborhood Community Network. So that's the organization through which we can mobilize. I mean, we can give all these kind of basic education on how Children's Parliament can be created, and how this community network, I mean the neighborhood community networks, which can be evolved. And I'll be hosting a monthly workshops, like to teach how you can set up Children's Parliament, and how you people can create your own parliaments and get the training, the entire complete training, including the 3 modules I shared, life skills, functional, and the value clarification exercises. So 2 things you can do. One is approaching the organization, Neighborhood Community Network, and you have our official website, childrenparliament.in. So childrenparliament.in, which will be directed you to the Neighborhood Community Network, as this is a pioneer organization. And then you will have our workshops, and the monthly workshops, which will be continuously giving trainings to all these interested candidates. So you can choose all these 2 chances to take it on.
Fantastic.
So there you go. So anyone that wants to know more about this, they know now the website, the Network Community Network, as a first step to get those basic training and knowledge to set up a neighborhood parliament, and that global network that I'm sure it's an amazing supporting community to keep learning from other examples, case studies, also reinforcing you, I think, to share with your community why it makes sense by taking all these examples of look what has already happened in India and in Kenya and in this other country, and then kind of bringing it to their local context. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're looking forward to keep collaborating with you. I think it's amazing what you do, and it's really aligned with our values of empowering children and youth to take control of their learning and their lives.
It has been amazing.
I enjoyed it.
The hour has passed super fast.
That was a nice thing. I enjoyed a lot. Thank you very much for your great effort to organize this online, live, and which is being which will be shared in the YouTube as well, I guess, right?
Yes, we'll be sharing that as well. I'll send you by email all the recordings and so on.
We have a large community where we also can share these links.
Fantastic. That'd be great.
Great. Thank
Big hugs from here.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and we'll keep in contact.
Definitely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.